Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Bench Extra. As always, it's purely football on the agenda. We're talking through football news and gossip, and joining us to do so is Andy Carr, the Mariners' famous mascot, and Stu Cox, who isn't a mascot. This week's head-to-head challenge is the test of our weak foot. You can see that later on in the show. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter and emails. Details are on your screen now. So let's start by talking about Boston and North Ferriby this weekend and Gresley, Cleetown in the Cup. What are your thoughts on that, Stu?
Well, Cleetown, obviously, Gresley in the next round in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a good game. Gresley are a league above Cleetown at the minute, and if Cleetown go up, it might be a league game.
Do you think Cleetown have got the minerals to go far in that Cup?
I think as the rounds progress and the bigger teams come in from, say, your Northern Premier Conference North, Cleetown will find it a bit more trickier.
Andy, before the show we were talking about Cleetown, and just quickly, you know, what was your thoughts on Cleetown and their Cup sort of run?
I think it's brilliant for the area, you know. Cleetown, Grimsby Town, Grimsby Borough, all the local teams. You know, you can't knock it. They've done absolutely brilliant. You know, the lads on Saturday. You know, reading what I've read in the paper, the 4-1 win. You know, it's all positive. I think, as I mentioned before, we were talking about the Colin Murray. Colin Murray. That he's kind of picked them out, and he's going to be following them, you know, and see how far they can go with it. And I say good luck to them all. Just
quickly, Boston, North Ferriby, it's second versus third in the conference North, I believe. So what were your thoughts on that, Stu, quickly?
Well, I saw him in a pre-season friendly just a few weeks ago, and after watching that, despite the 4-1 defeat they had, I thought that, you know, they're going to be up there or thereabouts come the end of the season.
Looking ahead to this week's other fixtures, Grimsby travel to Gateshead, Scunthorpe go to Yeovil, and Hull host Stoke City. So let's talk about Grimsby's season so far. Andy, I'm sure you've got a lot to say on this, being at the games every
yeah.
What are your thoughts on Town season?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed feeling, really, because we're undefeated, but obviously, you know, we've drawn all three. I think there's, you know, realistically, when you watch each game, we should have won all three games. We had the chances to win it. You know, obviously,
I agree with Andy, actually. Yeah. What do you think to the season so far for Town?
Well, you look at the games, what we've had. Obviously, Dover, we've finally scored a goal. Nuneaton, they've hit the bar. They've come close on a few occasions. And, well, if Lenny put that chance away against Bristol Rovers, it was we nicked to 1-0, possibly the hardest away game of the season.
It's a shame for Lenny, because people know that I'm very pro Lenny in the terms of I know he struggled with his finishing at times, but it's his overall game, and Paul Hurst has, you know, commented in the paper tonight, and I know the lads in the squad do rate him, you know, and you know he's an asset to the squad, but I can understand why fans do get frustrated. Because at the end of the day, a striker is there to score goals,
and they're always rated on their goals, aren't they?
You know, and you know that you know it's goals what a striker's looked at. But you know, you look at his stats for last season. I think it was something like he only scored 9, but he had the second most assists behind Scott Nielsen. You know, some people have been I think they've been a bit derogatory towards him, to be perfectly honest. And I think that the more people that seem to understand football knowledge more, whilst you know that they know that he's there to score goals, and he hasn't done. He still offers hell of a lot to the team, more than I think people realise.
Yeah, Scunthorpe have just got a couple of strikers actually. How do you see their season picking up, Stu, after some bad results?
Well, apart from the cup game, they haven't really done much. They got tonked 4-0 at home to Preston on last Saturday, and that would have hurt them. Do
you both, you know, I think Hull season will go?
I think there's no reason why Hull can't finish mid-table. I think they've got a strong enough squad. You know, going back to, as you mentioned about Scunthorpe, I think they will struggle again, but that's not in a you know, I know there's the Grimsby-Scunthorpe rivalry. I think that's just how I think they'll probably yo-yo between the two leagues. Maybe there'll always be you know, have a good setup for a good League Two club. Once they get into League One, you know, always be sort of possibly coming back down, I think.
Yeah, there could be a yo-yo club. Stu, what are your thoughts on Hull City's start? Can't ask for more, really.
Well,
can you? 3
points. 3 points, a clean sheet, and a defender gets a goal. It's quite good.
Yeah, so the strikers for Scunthorpe could make a difference. It'd be nice if we could get an FA Cup match against Scunthorpe again.
That would be quite surreal after last season.
Do you see Scunthorpe going on further in the Cup then at all, both of you? What do you think?
Well, you know, it's a bit hard because, you know, I haven't obviously seen them play. You can only go on the results you see.
Well, this week, Hardy and I had to test our weakest foot during a penalty shootout. Needless to say, we was hopeless. As I said, terrible. You can see Hardy's attempt in part 2, don't miss that. This week's sack or stick spotlight is on, dare I say it, Louis van Gaal. An opening day defeat at home to Swansea obviously displeased fans. Alan Shearer has said quite publicly that it might be a blessing in disguise for the money men at United. They obviously need to sign some big players. What are your thoughts on United, Andy, and their start?
Well, it kind of, you know, in the terms of Moyes, all the criticism he gets, maybe it's showing people that it's not as simple as just replacing, you know, Sir Alex Ferguson. You know, whatever you think of Man United and the rivalry in that, the guy's an absolute, you know, legend in what he did. You know, what he did at Man United.
Maybe Fred the Red needs to galvanise him a bit.
No, to be honest, he should be down in the conference. Mighty Mariners should be Premier League.
Stu, is Alan Shearer right? You know, do the money men at United need to spend their money to improve?
You look at the performance, it wasn't the best. They struggled. Fair enough, Rooney got a great goal. Like, you can't deny the fact that it is probably one of the better goals of the weekend throughout the divisions, but they need to spend money. There isn't enough quality at Man U.
Who'd heard of
Herrera before
where do they
went
need
there?
to strengthen? What particular areas, Andy? Would you highlight anywhere?
Well, I think it's just getting that one or two world-class players in there. You know, in different areas. I think, you know, Rooney, okay, he came up with the goal, and he will do that. He'll get the, you know, the goals as and when. But I think they're just missing that bit. My thing with Man United at the moment, I think, is the transition stage. They've had Alex Ferguson there for so many years that I presume the training's been the same way. Everybody's known what they're doing. Suddenly, these new men come in, you know, these new managers, and they want to do this, do that, do this, do that. And people don't like it, and I think it's kind of upset the apple cart a bit because of what people are used to.
So I'll have to ask you both. Louis van Gaal, do you stay with him or do you sack him?
Oh, I think I've always said stick with managers.
Well, yeah, I agree. Stick.
This weekend, Laughton Town are also in action. They're away at Hall Road Rangers. Last week, they beat another local side 1-0. So let's just talk about Louth. They're doing quite well in their respective league. Have you seen much of Louth, Andy? What do you think to those guys?
No, to be honest, I haven't noticed much about Louth. I'm not going to lie, but I've seen that they've had a good start after what can only be described as a horrendous season, you know, last year. And I think it's about, you know, a bit like Grimsby, I suppose, where we've dropped down the leagues, you know, steady the sinking ship, so to speak, and then build from there. And I think that's basically what I think they've got to do, because it was a shame last year, Louth, because they are another local club, and it's horrible to see teams like that with local lads, you know, end up where they ended up. Yeah,
sure. We mentioned on last week's show. Obviously, they had that big win. Obviously, friendly pre-season, and another league win against Grimsby.
Well, it's a much improved performance by Borough, to be fair. It was only 1-0.
What do you think of that?
Well, last week, the opening weekend, Borough got tonked 8-1, obviously, and to go into the next game and only lose 1-0, it shows improvement throughout the season, and they're not bottom no more. Yeah,
I mean, it is good for, like, as you say, Colin Murray's picked up on Clee Town, he's following them. Can Laughton Town be another Clee Town, if you like? Can they get noticed by some of the big media outlets and be followed in the FA Cup?
I think it's down to the FA Cup, really, isn't it? Because it's got that nostalgic feel about it, and I think even a lot of the guys, you know, the big personalities in the world of TV and media, if they, you know, notice somebody, you know, someone like Clee Town have gone and got a result, and they pick up, and it can kind of probably, I don't know, steamroll a little bit, and suddenly Cleethorpes Town are, you know, as big as Man United.
Just before we go to a break, here's a half-time teaser for you. When did Hull City last beat today's opponent, Stoke City, and by what score? Welcome back to Extra. Before the break, I asked you, when did Hull last beat Stoke City and by what score? And it was in November 2009, and it was 2-1 Hull. Turning our attention to the international stage, England kick off their Euro qualifying campaign in a couple of weeks' time. A friendly followed by a tough game away in Switzerland. So let's start by talking about the squad. If he listened to everyone, Roy, then he'd have a squad of about 50 going. So, Stu, I'll start with you. Who would you take? Who must go? Who would you leave out?
Well, Townsend, he's played well for England, was unfortunate not to be at the World Cup due to injury. You've got to look at a mixture of both the older guard and nurturing new talent to come through ready to play for England, because if it's the same old all the way through, as soon as a Euro or World Cup come up, the youngsters will feel the pressure and it'll be like the World Cup just gone.
But
not
surely we've been doing that tournament after tournament and it's not worked, Andy. So, you know, what's the problem with England, do you think, if there is one?
I'll be honest, and I think at the time when obviously we went out the World Cup, I was probably in the minority, because I didn't actually think we were that horrendous at the World Cup. You know, we didn't get hammered by anybody. I think it was just, you know, tweaking one or two things here or there. And like you said, Stu, he mentioned, you know, Andros Townsend. You know, he was the one player that was kind of getting people's bit between the teeth, and then what happens? He gets injured, and everybody's down a bit. I think watching England's a bit like watching Grimsby over the years, in terms of like England are the international Grimsby, and Grimsby are the
League's England.
The League's England kind of thing.
Do you think that's what it is then? Roy Hodgson hasn't got the minerals to take these players, and he just sticks to what he sort of knows that might work for him. Because at the end of the day, his job's on the line if England do fail miserably.
But you look at it, like Andy said, the performances weren't bad, just results aren't going. They didn't go England's way in the World Cup.
I genuinely, like you, Stu, I genuinely didn't think we were that horrendous. Other people will disagree. You know, it was just, you know, like you said, it just a little bit of sort of twerking. I don't mean that kind of twerking.
Twerking of the team.
Yeah,
I agree, actually, I do, because I watched it, and, you know, we didn't get hammered. There was not much in it. It was a mistake, couple of mistakes. You take them out, I think we can compete.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's now time for Hardy's attempt at this week's head-to-head. The first half saw me score 0. I wonder if Hardy can beat 0 then. That is much harder than it looks. I'm not doing very well at these challenges. Now, we turn to the back pages of the papers to see what's making headlines this week. So let's start with the Grimsby Telegraph. It's Lenny has to earn his spot. Now, again, Andy, I'm sure you've got a lot to say on LJL. So what are your thoughts on Lenny and you know, at Town?
I think, as I said earlier on in the show, exactly what's been put there. People seem to think that he's just a Paul Hurst favourite when he isn't. You know, if you spoke to, I think, you know, quite a few of the players, they would tell you what he offers. And I think if you played with a player like Lenny, you would probably understand more playing with him than actually watching from the stands. I genuinely do think that.
Now, I know there's something in here, Andy, that you quite like when Paul Hurst refers to he doesn't know how many managers are in the stands. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I'm sure plenty of fans will pick up on that and say, you know, he's having a go at the fans. But he's right. You know, it's so easy for us all to sit and criticise and have a go. But how many of us are at the training? How many of us are qualified managers? Yeah. We can say, oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But I'm not a manager.
Stu, if you was Lenny's manager, what would your thoughts be on him?
Well, you see him on the pitch, and he seems a really tricky player. If I was a defender, I wouldn't like to come up against him. You know, he's strong. He gets good airtime when the crosses come in to try and get a goal with his head.
He was unlucky as well at the weekend. He was very unlucky.
He was. Let's look at the Daily Mail, and the back page is a headline about the United fans fume at lack of stars. Now, we've mentioned obviously Man United and Van Gaal is his job up for, you know, but you know, do you agree with the fans then? Obviously they do need big stars. Can you understand the fans' frustration?
I can, but they want to be trying being Grimsby fans over the last few years. Never mind worrying about that. But no, just on all seriousness, you know, if you know, Man United are classed as one of the top clubs in the world. So if they're going to be, you know, carry on being up there, they've got to spend the money like the other big guns, or have, you know, not necessarily even have the money if they've got any of the young players coming through that can fit in. They've got to have world-class stars, because they are still classed as one of the top teams in the world.
What big stars would you bring into United, Stu?
Well, you look at
Lenny.
Lionel John Lewis.
Right, in the Sun then, this is the first time I've really seen this. Hart, he said he's all right with the competition at City for number one goalkeeper. I don't think I've ever seen high-profile goalkeepers, you know, having to fight for the place. I think this is the first time. Obviously, Courtois at Chelsea. What are your thoughts on that? Is that a good thing?
James McKeown needs to be there then, doesn't he?
Yeah. There's a lot of references to Grimsby Town here today. But,
I mean, it's only healthy for the goalkeeper, surely.
Yeah, you know, surely it is. At the end of the day, most other positions, whatever clubs you go in, you've got other people challenging for your position. It's something that probably at other clubs with goalkeepers. Maybe it's something that should happen more, and it would keep it a bit fresh, and rather than static, as in, oh, it's that player, he's in goal every week kind of thing.
So transfer deadline day is almost upon us, so let's check out some deals. Which teams desperately need a player and in which area? So I'm going to throw it open to you guys. We know which team. Pick a team, pick a player, pick a position. Andy,
I'll stick with Grimsby, obviously, and I know Paul Hurst has mentioned about bringing another defender in because of the injury to Aswad. Some fans, and also including myself, may be thinking, do we necessarily need that? Kane Winfarrer, who I was discussing this morning with a lovely young man, good old Lammy, Alan Lamb. He's the academy manager, and I was having a chat with him, and he was saying how pleased they were that Kane fitted, how well he fitted in and everything. Maybe he's just concerned because of the inexperience of Kane. You know, we had a cracking game. The worst thing would be to have not so good a game next time, and we've not got anybody to cover it. So maybe I can see where he's looking. I know a lot of fans will say striker for Grimsby, or somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net. But it'll be interesting after the weekend, because once we get Scott Nielsen, McGrath back, and there's a bit of width, that might be the telling point.
Stu, Scunthorpe, Hull, who would you sign for those teams?
Well, I don't think Hull need anybody, to be fair. They've gone out early. Yeah, they've gone out early, got in Tom Ince, Snodgrass, the places where they really needed to just shore up a little bit of cover as well for their midfield and forward line. And now they're in Europe, they need it as well. So maybe one more striker just to see them through.
I'll throw it out there. We've seen the opening day of the Premier League season. You know, who looks weak in the Premier League? You know, do they need any strengthening before the window shuts? Andy,
wow.
What do we think?
Oh God, I've had a
Newcastle.
I've had a complete mind block with that.
Stu, can you rescue Andy? Newcastle.
Well, Newcastle, they go out and sign anyone who's not from England, and it can't be good for like the team morale, because it's a load of different nationalities, a load of different cultures together. You know, there needs to be a little bit of balance in between the squad, and when you're bringing in, say, 6 players from France, 3 from Holland, 2 from Belgium, it disrupts the play. It disrupts.
Andy, you're nodding. What do you agree
Well,
with?
I think it is that. It's no good just signing, you know, without any Tom, Dick or Harry. You know, I know a good friend of mine, well, at Mighty Mariner Reserve, actually, Rob, and he'd always say about this business of constantly getting loan players in and signing anyone and signing here. It does disrupt it. You want a good, core squad of players. By all means, add 1 or 2, but you know, to going out and just signing hundreds from here or there, it just seems a bit bonkers, really.
So our 3 local sides, really, the main 3 local sides, Hull, Scunthorpe and Grimsby, do they have a good enough squad to compete for what they want to compete for, do you think, Stu? Quickly.
Well, Scunthorpe need a couple more players. Yeah. We've seen that from the 2. Fair enough, they beat Blackburn in the cup, but I think, and Andy will agree, that the league, it's a bit more pressured than being in the first round of the cup playing against Championship Blackburn. They went there with nothing to lose and came up with a win in second round place.
That's true. Well, we're out of time for this week. Please join us next week, same place, same time, for more football talk and another head-to-head challenge. Don't forget to find us on Facebook and Twitter, plus email us on the bench at estuary.tv, and your message could feature on next week's show. Thanks to the Mighty Mariner Andy Carr, Stu Cox, and to you for watching. For this week, it's goodbye.